All right, so we're recording. Be careful of what you say. All right, so, okay, call to order, seating of alternates. We got no alternates. Approval of minutes of March 17.
I move we approve the minutes of March 17th as written.
I'll second.
Any discussion, additions, omissions, corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented signify by saying aye.
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 Or raising a hand. Okay, opposed? Abstentions?
I abstain.
One abstention. Thank you for doing the minutes, Kathy. Okay. Next, present to speak. I see no one else is in the waiting room. Okay, I should check that every now and then. Treasurer's report expenditures.
The only thing that there's nothing new on the regular budget. The only thing that's happened was that after the town meeting approved the appropriation from Park and Rec for the Fenton Ruby management plan, we sent off, requested a check for the $1,000 down payment to be, and that should have been sent out on April 4th. It was signed by Erica on April 1st, and they were going to send the check with the signed proposal on the 4th. So I believe that's been taken care of.
Okay,
Nothing, no other activity.
okay, very good. All right, we've had a request to move the items on new business to the top of the agenda. I don't see any reason why we can't do that. Does anyone have an opinion one way or the other?
Not particularly.
Okay. Let's skip down to new business then. Burma Road, parcel for possible addition to Fenton Ruby. Did a site walk on 419. Kathy, Carol, and I went out there. I have not filed minutes for that yet. I will do that. Basically, we walked around and looked at things, and we can tell you about those things. Let me see where Burma Road. So the parcel is being offered to Wellington and the Conservation Commission first, as the owner would like to see it become part of the park. They need, excuse me, need to sell it. They can't, aren't in financial shape to give it away. I talked to Mr. Gene Waples, who is the father of the owner. Laura Pettix is the current owner. So he's speaking for her daughter at this point. I spoke with him, and I asked him in general what kind of price they'd be looking for. And he said she thought she would be looking for the appraised value. And the appraised value is currently $70,920. And it's 7.28 acres. And I explained to him that some of us had taken a look at it, and it seemed like it would be a great addition to the park. But unfortunately, we were in the midst of trying to squeeze money out of the town for a purchase, and I described that process and where we were on that, and then it doesn't look like we would be able to, at least in the very immediate future, be able to come up with any kind of funds for such a purchase. I told him that we would be looking at it some more and giving it some consideration, but that we couldn't do anything really down the road significantly soon into the future, at least probably not this calendar year for sure. And that we'd give it a little more deliberation and try to and get back to him when we had some sense of whether it was in the realm of possibility, and it may take some while. He said he would get back to his daughter about that and inform her of where we stood. It's not an immediate thing, that, and I also said that even if we did agree to buy it at some point, the process is long, whether we get a grant or not, going through all the hoops of getting appropriation of monies. And he said he'd pass that on. So that's where that stands in terms of communication with the owners at this point. I don't know if anyone has any comment or questions on that at this point.
Actually, the owner was recently widowed. Her husband was killed in a tragic accident in February. So there's some sense perhaps that there's a rather urgent need to access some capital. And I was wrong about it being the family having owned it prior. It was, they bought it from somebody else entirely. I started looking into the searching title a little bit and found some past history. And it was bought, they bought it in 1998 from someone who had purchased it in 1962, which is about as far back as I could see. So
Yeah, it was about 10 or 12 years ago that the power company got down there and disconnected the power and cut all the poles down back up to the end of Lustig Road. I talked to Mark Palmer about discontinued roads, and this is that Burma had been discontinued. He wasn't quite sure from his research if Lustig Road was abandoned when it came out of Ashford again, where it joins Burma, where the property is.
Okay, can I interrupt you just, Bob? So Burma ends at that Y junction at Amadon?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And then to the left, going past the camp there out to. Yeah,
Out to Lustig, I believe is Lustig.
That is Lustig at that point.
I think it's Lustig until you get to the town line, and then I believe it becomes Burma at that point, and Lustig ends. We went back up, looked at it, and looked at the Ashford map, and looked at map also, and the address for the forest in Ashford is actually on Howie Road, and that appears, if you go straight out beyond, that's Howie Road, not, and Lustig ends, I believe, where Burma starts at the town line. That's my take on it. As near as I could figure out from looking at various sources and both Ashford and Wellington maps.
Yeah, Mark Palmer wasn't quite sure what the scenario was there, but he had looked at a lot of these old town roads that people had figured that they were abandoned. And he said that Burma Road was. So if the case is that part, that Y where the property is, if is indeed Burma to the left, or to the left, that would mean that Burma Road had been discontinued or abandoned. The reason he did all of this was that if the road isn't abandoned, someone comes in and wants to build a house like that, they can force the town to put in a paved road or an improved road to their property. So that was the angle that I took once I had heard that you were going to go and look at that property.
Mhm.
And like I say, it was only 10 or 12 years ago that the power company took the power off of that building. There used to be a big porch around it.
Wow.
And when they took the power lines down, they cut all the poles down. And then since then, the trees have fallen, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where we are.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense that Burma goes to the town line because the address of the property is 74 Burma Road.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so I guess if Burma didn't, I guess, yeah, if Burma, stopped at the Y, then, well, there'd only be one point of land there that at the direct end of the road. So I guess.
Yeah, and Mark said that Burma Road had been abandoned from the Fenton River up to the end of the road. So
Okay.
that,
So what does abandoned mean? That the town has just, they officially said that's no road and nobody can.
that's correct. And he also made mention that Ashford, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, at one of their town meetings, abandoned a number of roads in town that when they went back and researched that they had not been abandoned.
Just neglected.
Right, and this all came about in Tolland when they had that 1990s building boom, 80s or 90s building boom. Someone had bought 200 or 300 acres in Tolland, and they found that the road hadn't been abandoned, and the town was obligated to build 2 miles of road for them.
And do you know if Amadon would have been on that list? Because from looking down at what was at Amadon from when we were doing the walk the other day, that's basically a woods road. And I was wondering if that unpaved section of Amadon was among those that were.
I can tell you in a minute. I'll look at Mark's email.
Yeah. One concern that I had is thinking it over is that even though it adjoins the property, the ponds present some interesting issues in terms of access and security and that kind of stuff. If we and a level of responsibility on a number of different fronts, not only that a pond might be attractive for people to use, and whether it would be difficult for us to monitor that since it's so far removed from the main entrance to the park.
Well, no one really monitors, Taylor Pond either.
No, but I don't know that, I think that's a little bit, this place is pretty inaccessible except to the adjoining property owners. And it's, Taylor Pond is very close to the road, so it's very visible. And I think that's.
Well, in terms of liability, the town, any of the back acres and brooks and, on town property is probably going to be whether ponds or brooks or just trees to climb, that they'd be subject to the same liability protections as anything else, the pond.
Yeah.
I was going to try here. My iPad here doesn't call up iCloud photos very well, so I was going to try to maybe just hold up a couple shots in front of the screen that I took the other day, just to let's just see what we saw out there. I don't know if this will work or not, but
Well, we were out there again today and we saw a turtle.
great.
A turtle and heard some birds. Then we saw a turtle on the pond.
Yeah, there's really 2 sections of pond, and they're separated, entirely separate from each other by a berm. There's an upper pond. I don't know if this will show up or not.
Shows up.
Let me see, there's going to be some glare. That's a view from Burma Road as you're walking in. This is the upper section of the pond. And it goes down and runs up against side of a dam or causeway, and then goes around to the left in a channel past the larger pond. So there really is no inflow to the lower pond other than what maybe come up from springs or down the hill or rain and snow. This pond, there's a kind of an inflow stream from up towards Lustig Road there.
Yeah, that part of it usually turns into pretty much a mud puddle during the warmer part of the year.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah. All right, this is the lower pond, the larger, deeper pond, looking south from the causeway between the two ponds, down towards the dam.
Yeah.
I believe. Okay. And where'd my pictures go? All right, they went back this way. Hang on. And all right, this is that upper pond that you saw in the first screen, looking from the causeway up towards or down towards where the outflow is into. I'm sorry. This is the lower end of the of the upper pond. So the main pond is behind me on the view. That channel that you see on the side is the outflow that goes past the lower pond. And this is the upper pond. It's a pretty little pond there from the causeway. Couple of wood ducks, we think they were, came in for a landing there on the pond and later flew off. That's the lower pond looking up from the causeway. So it's right at this time of year, there's plenty of water in it. This is the dam from Amadon Road, that horizontal line that you can see right across the middle of the picture there. It's about 8 feet high at the highest point, I think, from low to high point. It's pretty solid, pretty wide. It isn't going to go anywhere. There is an outflow tube that is clear, I think right there, about a 12-inch piece of culvert going through that holds the pond at the level it is now. All right, we found the upper boundary. There's a pin going out Amadon Road. If you've been out there, I don't know if you can remember, or if you go there again, there's a huge glacial erratic on the right side of the road as you're heading out, and directly across from that is an iron pin, and that's the outer boundary there, and going in that direction. And in the woods, about 250 feet off the road there is a granite monument marking the town line between Ashford and Willington, and that's the top. I don't know if you can read it. It says Willington Ashford Town Line, and there's a line orienting that's directly north and south, which is the town boundary, which is the boundary of the property, all the way north to south. So anyway, that's what we're looking at, but a bad time to consider, I guess, in terms of finances.
Does the property have any unique conservation values?
Well, it would be the pond, I think, for wildlife habitat. There were turtles in there. I don't know about for other things that swim around or not, but 3 ducks liked it. We saw some various things surfacing. We couldn't tell whether they were turtles or frogs underneath, but there were some snouts breaking the surface of the water. I don't know, Kathy, whether you want to.
I think, the biggest benefit would be wildlife habitat. Like you're saying, Carol mentioned, it's would be more of the remote area of the park where people would be less apt to go. And the wildlife would probably do better up in that area. And it is bordered by 2 sides of the current park. Be a nice addition in that regard. If somebody did buy it and put a camp in there, I guess the other thing we had talked about was that there might be more activity going on up there with people coming in and out using ATVs. You know, part of it would be kind of protecting it from that kind of use, I guess, overall. Anybody else who,
Over the years, I've just seen a lot of ducks in and out of there, different types during the spring and then in the fall. Kingfishers fishing for small fish. That's
Right.
about it.
definitely for birds, and there were several turtles that we saw when we walked as well. You know, Carol said she
Yeah.
saw some today.
Yeah, over the past not too many years, the pines have pretty much blanketed that. It wasn't but, 5 or 6, or maybe 8 years ago, that was pretty much an open field right down to the edge of the pond and then over to the road that's on the side that goes up into Ashford. So it's the complexity of it's changed an awful lot.
There were a lot of poultries and, and some barberry starting to invade and that kind of stuff. And the building that is there is, has damaged foundation. And, I think.
Yeah, a consideration would be that building would have to be demolished.
Right.
Whether that's something, that would have to be paid for, or whether Public Works is something that's not a massive building, 1-story thing, but, if they, don't know what they got for an excavator that could do that, but knock it down and put it into a truck. But there's 2 big fallen trees that are blocking the road coming down from the improved Lustig. I mean, those can be easily cut out of there, but currently they're blocking the road entirely. Yeah, anyone using it would have to, be able to. The road is solid enough. If you cut the trees out, you can drive a
yeah.
reasonably high car through there. You don't need an off-road vehicle necessarily at this point.
Now, Pete, is that on the Ashford side of the line, do you think?
The
Because there
tree-
might be some advantage to leaving them there if they're on the
Oh, well.
Willington side.
Well, we wouldn't.
During-
Yeah, a couple of years ago, someone, I guess an Ashford resident, called and said, how about you guys take this tree out of there? You might want access into your park. And I said, well, that property is in Ashford. It's their trees, and we don't need access to the park from that direction. And so I suggest you speak to Ashford Conservation Commission. But he still argued for us doing it because it got into the park. So I don't know what his interest in doing it exactly was, because you can walk under one of them and around one of them that someone cut. So
I think it's more that people are probably using it either ATV or more likely maybe snowmobiling in the wintertime. I think, using that network of Burma and
yeah,
Amadon.
well, you can't go very far. You can either run down to Fenton Ruby, which is, whatever distance that is, I don't know, 3/4 of a mile, and then and then you go out Amadon, which I guess I've never walked out to where it improves or not, but that didn't go all that far.
No.
And then just out the
But
Lustig. So it's not a wide ranging set of trails that one can run things around on, which is probably why there aren't too many of them doing that right now.
I don't think there's an awful lot of it. You have to go pretty far down Amadon to get to anything that's improved. The more get down closer to CCAR, where Amadon joins CCAR before.
All right. So anyway, what can we do with it at this point? Does anyone see any future in coming up with $70,000 to?
It's one of these things, when it rains, it pours,
Exactly.
I'm curious because it's appraised at 70,000, but the assessed value on it is $2,400. So they're not paying very much in taxes on this. It's 7 acres. We've got the Talmadge property that was assessed at when we had the appraisal done, the paid appraisal was 125,000 for twice as many acres. So I'm having a hard time believing that they would be able to get $70,000 for that. So, first of all, I wouldn't set that figure in stone.
Yeah.
They paid $50,000 for it in 1998.
50,000.
50,000. So, and given what I understand the circumstances and what Mr. Waples indicated to Pete was that money is a consideration at this point. So, I really don't,
But what I mean, Carol, is even if they put it on the market, I don't know if they'd get 70,000 for it.
I don't know that they would either, because so much of the parcel is taken up with the two ponds and, and with a lack of access, clear access, because they'd either have to come in from Lustig on, from the north, or it'd be pretty inaccessible from the other direction. Particularly if Wellington has abandoned Burma, then they wouldn't have any way to get there. And the other access would be Amadon, which is also unimproved. There are no improved roads in that area at all.
No.
Just wood roads, basically.
Right. And they're, it'd be very expensive for them to bring power down there, whereas on Talmadge, there's power.
Right.
So I'm just having a hard time believing that, that the appraisal, I don't know why it was so high at the time that it was. Maybe because there were structures on it, because it's showing 3 structures.
But we didn't see 3 structures. We only saw one.
No, but if you look at the assessor's card, it shows 3 structures, correct?
Yeah, it shows 3 different, 143, 192, and 120 square feet each. Total value on the whole shooting match of $360, but I don't know where they're finding the other structures. There are a couple of foundations, but they're not in Wellington. They're farther up on in Ashford. There's a foundation of a house and an outbuilding.
When was the appraisal for the town done? When was the last?
2018. Last valuation year.
Okay.
Not that long one.
Well, the appraisal number comes from, arbitrarily, as they do in every piece of open property, and is appraised for one house lot.
Oh, okay.
And so that's with that number. And then they depreciate it like crazy for the access, which is why the assessment only comes out at what it is.
Okay. Right. But they're probably paying peanuts for taxes then.
Because they're being assessed on the paying taxes on the assessment, right? The $2,700 or whatever.
Yeah. So
But
in terms of pressure to sell it, it may not be pressure because of the taxes at least, but maybe the need for some money. We have some other options. If we really felt that this was a parcel that we wanted to try to get to attach to the park, the other thing we could consider is trying to do some fundraising in some way. I don't know, we've never thought about that as a way to try to add on some property, or go back to the Board of Finance and say, hey, look, we've got this other piece of property that's come up. What can we think about doing from a financial point of view?
Well, then they might ask us to choose.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, probably not still in terms of budget season and all that here would not be a favorable time to go anywhere with our hands out.
Yeah, the property, I think, is probably realistically somewhere around $40,000 or $45,000.
I agree with you.
There's not very much high and dry, and the water table, I've walked around there many years, and there's always water in the basement of that building, where the hatch cover goes down, it's always wet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, you're talking engineered septic, you're talking, a certain type of structure to be built. You can't have a full foundation put in. So there's obviously constraints,
Yeah, as a building lot, I would say no, but as a camp, someone could easily, have a camp in there, and where they just run things off a generator. They wouldn't necessarily need power, or
Sure.
And-
gas lights or,
I think time is on our side.
yeah.
It's an unfortunate situation, but I think time is on our side based on what Bob said too. I mean, it's clearly, doesn't sound like a $70,000 parcel.
I don't think so either. I think there, but given the overgrown state too, if anybody wanting that place would have to do a lot of clearing of poultries and invasives and that kind of thing.
Well, anybody buying a camp is gonna be expecting to do work. That's what camps do, take.
Right, right.
Well,
Yeah,
So,
at this point, I just think that we're better off focusing on the other property. It has, I think it has a lot more for us and the
exactly
town
right.
overall.
yeah,
Sometimes you just have to walk away. Can't have everything you want.
so maybe we'd have to say at this point, not in 2021.
I can't see how.
Yeah.
I can't see how.
But I would think it would be a pretty difficult property to market also.
I mean, it certainly would be a nice parcel to add to Fenton Ruby, but really have to stop and look at it and say, yeah, at what price?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it's 7 acres. It's not 70 acres.
No, right, right.
No, but it just protects that, it protects that top of the park along,
Oh,
almost half a mile of road
yeah,
there
without question.
from someone else, even if they put a camp on, let's run our ATVs out there kind of thing, so,
Mhm.
Or go
Yeah.
hunting on the property.
yeah.
Not big enough.
All right, so I guess we agree in general then to say thanks, but no thanks, and
Can't do it
if
this
it's
year.
still on the market in 2022, we'll, another fiscal year anyway, at least.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's realistic. If you're going to say anything to them, say possibly in 2022.
Oh, wait a sec. I think I'm taking my feast and moving to another location. All right. Yeah, bye. Ooh.
Okay,
I think I'm leaving only.
all right, the next item on the agenda is the butter interest in FRP field areas. Did everyone get that email from Erica?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, regarding that.
Yep.
Jackie did not. All right, well, in a nutshell, anyway, it's easily explained. There's someone that bought the big house on Moose Meadow Road. And they are interested in making use of the field areas behind the house. Either one of the field areas, the part belonging to the park in particular, and either purchase or just plain use. He said he's hoping to buy or use the field area behind my home. It's town-owned and part of the preserve, which is great because I don't plan to ever build on it and love knowing it won't ever be anything but what it is now, private and beautiful. I simply want to be able to have a couple of horses, parents, when I build a barn on my property and get some anyway, to be able to roam and maybe sled down with my grandkids. And it's landlocked by water and marsh, away from walking trails too. Outside of it being a wide open area of 10 acres, I don't think you do anything with it. And mentioned the Hipsky families on the other side that hay the field there. And so he's looking for an opportunity to purchase with clearly would be a never develop it other than that clause on it. So we can open discussion on that proposal.
Okay, Pete, I've got the park management, park management plan, the town park management plan. And in paragraph 4-1, deed restrictions. The property is subject to the following deed restrictions, which shall run with the land in perpetuity. The premises shall be used exclusively for conservation and recreation purposes only. And more specifically, those portions of the premises being west of the Fenton River may be used for active recreation and conservation, and those portions east of the Fenton River, as well as the entire Drobny Sanctuary, shall be used only for passive recreation and conservation. No part of the premises will be used for commercial purposes or privately owned housing. No portion of the premises shall be conveyed by the grantee to either an individual or a legal entity.
Are you reading this, Carol? Is this what you're looking
So I
at?
think that pretty much covers it. Yeah. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
It's on pages 5 and 6 about the deed restrictions. Yeah. So we are not allowed to convey the property to somebody else, nor I didn't think would we want to. Not
Okay,
to
yeah.
suit the new owner's convenience.
Yeah, D in particular that you refer to in that 4.1D. No portion shall be, your sound was breaking up an awful lot, Carol.
Yeah,
Kind of hard to hear you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
well-
no portion of the premises shall be conveyed by the grantee to either an individual or a legal entity. So that right there, says that it would not work. And even if it weren't quite so ironclad, I think it was clear that the Rubies wanted it for conservation and preservation. And it would just be a breach of trust in
No,
order
absolutely.
to sell any part of it. So, I mean, this was going to the selectmen for their consideration also. And I don't think they would be anxious to get rid of it, but I don't know, but we will certainly, they're going to be bound by the deed restrictions anyway. So,
Yeah.
I think.
And I don't have the deed itself here, but
Right.
but that's the portion of the deed that was quoted in the plan, and we can actually get a copy of the actual deed if there's any,
Yeah.
if anybody raises any questions, but it's quite clear that we're not supposed to be conveying it to anybody else.
Right.
Who's responsible if this is the end result, telling the owner? Is it the town or the Conservation Commission?
Well, it's town property. I think what I would do is to convey to the selectmen that what we find is in the deed, and that really is should be end of story.
Right.
Yeah.
Or, well, we don't have the deed, as Carol said, but we have, the park management plan says that, and they can go look at it if they want, but I think that's, it would be, I think, I'm not sure who it was addressed to, it was probably, it was his original email went to Erica.
Yeah, well, we've got a copy of the deed in the file up there,
Uh,
and I could go up and get a copy and convey it to the selectmen if you want me to
Well, if we could.
next week.
I think that's a good idea, actually. I think to give a letter on either an email or official letter back, Peter, basically stating that we reviewed the gentleman's email that she forwarded to us, and we, reviewed the deed, and there are restrictions where we can't, sell the property or, use it for anything else but what the town's currently using it for.
I don't know if we could review the deed so we could say that, but we haven't really got the deed here. We've only got.
Pete, do you want me to go up? I can go up sometime early next week and make a copy of the deed and get it to you. So we have, but I think what's in the management plan is pretty accurate in terms of
Yeah.
language that's in the deed, but probably a copy of the deed itself would
Yeah,
be.
we
good
could,
to have.
we could cite that restriction with more authority if we actually had the vote or
The deed itself.
section from the deed, yeah.
And
For the minutes, shall I put in that we reviewed the email from the owner, and then we'll refer it back to the Board of Selectmen?
Yes, I don't know whether we need to take a vote on this or not, as the, the language restricting the use is pretty much, in concrete anyway,
Yeah.
or in stone.
I-
But yeah,
I
just.
think,
just
why don't maybe we say. Okay,
I mean, I don't think it has to be, it's between the landowner and the town. It's not like this is something that's been brewing on. I don't think I need to go into great detail.
no,
I'll
No,
say
No.
that we reviewed the email and are going to refer it back to the
Yeah.
Board of Selectmen.
but I think it wouldn't hurt to say that we believe that the deed would prohibit sale or other use by sale to anyone else, to any other individual, or, and we'll confirm that and convey that to the select. I don't know, but is there anybody who would want to, even if we could,
No,
convey this to
no.
somebody
I
else?
think we're all in one agreement on that. I don't know, well, I don't know whether we need to say anything about whether the request for use of part of the park, or just in general, as Marilyn was saying, just the email.
we reviewed the email
Yeah,
from the
or just
owner.
Review the email, yeah, review the email regarding the use of Fenton Ruby Park, maybe.
Okay,
And
and we're
Okay.
referring it back to the Board of Selectmen.
yes, that should do it.
And, you know,
Okay.
actually, even though we do have hay cut there, we don't have the hay cut until after August 15th. So we are using it for wildlife habitat
Mhm.
for, birds and such. So that's another reason that we wouldn't want to have another use for it, like a field where you have animals roaming.
All right.
Yeah, and his indication that he would want to graze horses there.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, he wanted to graze his horses, yeah, right. Field used for wild. I could mention that too in the note. So we're not just saying, no, you can't go there, even though we don't use it, because, we don't use it, but we don't use a lot of the park. The animals do. That's why we have the park preserved. It's for wild.
Okay, just for clarification, would you like me to get a copy of the deed to the selectmen?
Yeah, how many pages is it likely to be?
Oh,
Well,
it's not very
yeah, what,
lengthy, but I could,
email it to me.
or actually,
Email it to me and I'll attach it or send it along with my note to the selectmen.
okay, but I just, it's hard to get things from the town clerk unless you can give them volume and page, because they won't do research. You have to know what you're looking for in order for them to email you deeds, pretty much.
Yeah.
Would
I
the,
guess the office is open now by appointment, isn't it? I think.
Yes, it is. I talked to Robin, in case I wanted to look at more into the other property. And I think I could make an appointment and,
Okay.
Carol, would the book and page number be on the assessor's card for the Fenton Ruby property?
probably is, actually. Yep. And yeah, I could do that. I could get a copy. Just ask Robin to make a copy for the selectmen or to send it to Pete.
Yeah, maybe to email it.
Yeah, I got that in my records.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, well, while we're doing down the new business correspondence, just one quickie came in got an email from Tammy Nuccio, our rep, state rep about asking whether we have any activities planned for Trail Day or Earth Day in Wellington. And she was going to be in Ashford participating in some event, and then be in Tallinn to participate in another event, and wanted to see if we had anything going that she'd be, that she could attend. So I sent her a note back that we currently do not have any activities planned for those times. That we were working hard on doing preparations for a deep grant, and thank you for your inquiry, and we'll let you know if we have any activities that that you can you'd be invited to attend. So that's all I have on new business, unless there's other new business. So we can put that back at the bottom if we don't get to that right now. I don't have anything else new. And if not, then we can jump back up to old business. Okay, Mason Road open space acquisition update. All right, we're still hanging fire, waiting for word of vast sums of money flowing out of the state coffers. Are there things that we could be doing, should be doing, can be doing in terms of prep for the grant at this point, though? Well,
Carol and I looked at the current the application from last year, and there are some things we can start to write up, but we know that DEEP is also, they solicited comments the last 2 weeks regarding the grant application, and they may change some of it based on feedback from the public. So, you know, there are some things that we can start to kind of draft, and we can start to work on. Also, there's the issue of the state statute 8-24, where planning and zoning has to also support the purchase. So I did send a letter to Mike D'Amato about that, and he said he wanted it to come from the first selectman's office. So I sent a letter to, well, an email to Erica explaining that in terms of the planning and zoning looking at this and supporting, you know, whether or not the town should support this purchase, that the planning and zoning would want the Board of Selectmen to refer it to them. So I haven't heard anything back from Mike to know if Erica did that or not. So.
okay. So I guess we'll hang fire, and if they decide not to announce any grants, we're done.
Well, as far as I understand, they're still planning to announce. It's just a matter of when. You know, they just closed this period of time where they were soliciting comments. So I don't know how long it's going to take them to take all that information and then to come out with a new application. They haven't been working very quickly. So, I mean, let's hope it happens in May, but we don't know for sure.
Well, we thought in the meantime, since so much of the language describing the project and the advantages of acquiring the property can carry forward from the previous grant application, we could at least draft some of those things and we could adapt them if they change the application. They're also looking for climate change stuff. I don't, you know, so, you know, there are things we have to look at. We have to justify how it benefits the state's plan of conservation and development, as well as our own local plan of conservation and development.
Okay. Well, all right, guess sit and wait. All right, Benton Ruby management plan update. Well, I guess, you know, 2 days after our last meeting was the town meeting, and they voted to approve the money, and Carol already alluded to that anyway at the beginning. Okay, so
Peter, excuse me, I did want to let you know that I did get in touch with Peter Lesmers from Conwood to let
okay.
him know it had been approved and he should expect the deposit. He asked me to check back with board members about what some of our goals might be for the management plan. If there were anything more specific that we wanted to say to him in terms of direction for that park management, for the forest management plan.
So what's the forest management plan?
Yeah, it's updating the forest management plan.
And
It's the
Conwood,
Conwood.
Conwood will be the contractor?
Yes,
I would think that the general goals for the park, protecting wildlife, probably everything that was stated as goals in the last plan should probably be the same and should be enough to inform Conwood. I don't think we have any specific
No.
goals as far as wanting to do forest management in a particular area.
Right, right. Or look
Or
for any different
recommendations based
activities
on
to
those.
carry out or decide we want an area to grow Christmas trees or something like that, or just, maintain, I think, yeah, as you say, Jackie, just the basic ideas that they had in there to start with should be workable, yeah.
And this will be 2021?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
One of the other things I just wanted to ask folks, because I know, and Jackie, maybe you have some thoughts as a forester on this. There seems to be, in terms of climate change and climate resiliency, there's a lot of things that I've been reading lately on trying to keep more of forest going toward old growth forest, old growth characteristics, because that's the best way to kind of hedge your bet against climate change. So I didn't know if, we've had some parts of the park have the timber harvest to help the forest health, to try to regen some of the oaks and so on. But do we have some parts of the park where we might want to think about not doing any kind of management going forward? So,
Well, we could let Conwood know that we would be open to suggestions on those types of areas, because when they're doing their inventory, they might see an area that already has some of those characteristics. And but I think maybe a goal we could state would be to develop some reserve areas, but not tell them specifically where we want them.
okay,
Yeah, so they could think along those lines instead of, well, there's a nice tree, you could harvest that and we get some soil logs, but maybe think in terms of letting it go. Yeah, that's a good idea.
all right, thanks. Anybody else? Any other feedback?
Okay, sounds good.
Pete, is there anything else of major importance, or can I say goodbye now?
Well, we're not gonna make you
You
stay.
got a quarter without me, so, huh? Bye.
Okay,
Hi, Carol. Good
If I
night.
can figure out how to get there.
just pull the plug.
All right.
And I'll say goodbye, guys.
All right. No, you tell them
Thanks.
plan then. Okay, anybody have any comments on the Talmadge section? The
Hey, can you get me out of this?
hell, get me out of this barrel.
Can you get me out of this?
Just pull the plug off and fall.
Put the lid on the barrel.
We'll try.
Yeah. Where's
Good
the?
night.
I think if you press Zoom,
We'll try that.
Can you just?
and then press the leave button. Press the leave button.
There we go.
All right. That's why you have
Tap it. That
grandkids.
screen,
That's right.
then leave.
Well, you get to meet our grandkids.
That's good.
You're
Can I
not done
try?
yet, though.
Grandpa, can I try pressing?
Sure, go ahead.
Or I'll just put it in the other room and close the door.
Just close the
Yeah.
power.
Well, there's always an easy way out. I'm gonna do it this way.
All right, then, so anything on the management plan here that anyone thinks that we ought to do differently?
Well,
There we go.
kind of going back
Not
to
really.
that, on page 40 of the management summary for
Oh,
Talmadge and on the last part of that page,
Yep.
there's an improvement harvest of 18 acres they're suggesting that should be done or should have been done in 2019, 2020. Kind of going back to those ideas of whether or not we want to think more in terms of climate resilience, even for this, for these forested acres too. I don't know, I'm kind of, the more I read, the more I'm reading that we need to have more forest just kind of do its natural thing. Jackie, again, what are some of your thoughts about this?
Well, as far as storing carbon, you have to consider that the regeneration is storing more carbon, and if the products that are being harvested are being utilized as long-term use, like furniture and building materials, then that's continuing to store carbon even after it's been harvested.
Yeah.
That's another way to look at it. You can store more carbon by growing more trees.
Mhm.
But then there's the factor whether the wood is going to that use or if it's going to a use like firewood, which
Yeah.
uses up the carbon quicker.
But
But
how
certainly,
about,
I do think that old growth forests can store a lot of carbon, and a lot of that has to do with the soil. So having
Oh, yeah.
trees falling and then retaining that carbon in the soil, or in coarse woody debris. But the trees stop storing as much carbon as they reach a certain size and they're not growing as much. But it's that natural process of decomposition and the soil carbon that I think is a big factor with climate change.
Yeah, there was discussion of that. I remember one session at the last conference we went to down in Middletown there about that sort of thing. And, well, do the old trees store more? Or they slow down, and just all the things that Jackie was just saying there. Along the same lines, with not quite the same thing, but I just saw in the paper today, there's some of the pine growers down south have been told by their suppliers or their, the mills and stuff, don't harvest anything else this year, just let it grow. And it's for carbon sequestration, I think, on those. But those, fast growing things, they're growing really quick for just pole timber and telephone poles and things like that. But they've been told not, well, actually part of it's, to reduce, increase the green footprints of the companies themselves. So whether it's rooted in the science of in biology or not, but it's another take on let's not harvest, but it's just so that the companies could not have as great an impact on things.
I mean, the 18
But
acres,
anyway,
their suggestion, that this was done back in 2010, basically when this was written. I don't think a lot of these things were as a big of a priority.
right.
Sorry, let me just throw that over there. I mean, do we really want to think about doing an improvement harvest?
I don't think we do at this point anyway. We've got enough things on our plate, and
Yeah.
see what comes up with the management plan on Fenton Ruby.
Well, one of the things that is kind of evident when I was reviewing that is you take and you look at the hard numbers, what they're saying the yield would be for dollars and cents per acre.
Mhm.
And if you're only going to harvest 18 acres and they're estimating some of the areas are, somewhere between $500 and $600, and then some of the other, one of the areas is like $1,000 per acre. I mean, in order to come out ahead in any of this, you really need to have a company come in and harvest 100 or 200 acres so that you can come out, not owing somebody money. And we saw that when we did the harvest at Fenton Ruby.
Yeah, we came close.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, we accomplished what we wanted to,
Yeah.
but with the bottom line, you're better off just letting the trees grow, and people aren't upset that their trails don't wander through, cut up tops and skid lines and things like that. And, just write it off as it's just not economically feasible.
Yeah. Well, again, this is billed as improvement, so even though you may break even, you have to decide
true.
whether
Yeah.
you just want to look at the improvement as worth spending a little money on, or at least breaking even on it. But
Yeah.
and I'm not sure. It's listed as on T3 there as an improvement harvest, but in terms of money, you're right. It's probably not worth it.
I mean, they're saying that the last harvest was 20 to 30 years ago. Just let it grow for another 10 years. Maybe there's going to be a point where somebody's going to be looking for, substantial size logs with that you can cut some 12-inch boards out of or something. 12-inch wide boards out of. I don't know. It doesn't cost anything to just let them stand there and grow, unless they blow over.
Right. I would lean towards that too, but maybe another consideration is, I guess I can't picture, I don't know, a couple of you, Jackie and Kathy, have walked the potential addition to the Talmadge. And if they're, that would have a larger area sometime in the future where maybe I could combine some efforts from anything going in, whether it's habitat or taking a few logs out or just doing an improvement. So that might be an angle to wait on and see how that turns out. Have a few more acres to.
Well, one of the things I don't think that, we've thought about or ever done anything with is just go out and cut spots, cut down 5 or 6 trees in an area, in a cluster, open it up so you get diversity on the ground. I mean, that doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah, if they're junk trees to start with, just.
Right. Right.
They're likely to be junky and all spread out in large crowns, and cut down a few of them, open up some sky to them. Yeah,
Right.
but that's another thing. Another
Yeah,
option.
that was one of the recommendations that Conwood made in almost every stand on the Talmadge and Milton properties. Doing
That's true.
patch cuts. And that would also, one of the reasons to do that is for wildlife habitat, but another reason is it's kind of aiming to emulate old growth forest characteristics. So like a small microburst or blowdown, or some other event that takes down, or an insect or anything that could damage a
Cool.
small portion of the trees. And then if we did just leave them on the ground, that would obviously store carbon in the soil.
Sure. Yeah.
And also provide that young growth in that area for wildlife habitat
Yeah.
and diversity of plant growth.
Tops and things on the ground would to some extent protect some of the small stuff growing up to keep the deer out for a while, act as a deer fence, I suppose. I don't know if that seems like a good idea. Whether the deer would look at it that way, I don't know, but.
Right.
So you're talking about maybe focus on doing a few little patch cuts then at some point.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Before we get too old to carry the saws out there.
yeah, right.
Jackie, is that something you could help us identify maybe at some point
Yeah, maybe
there.
like next winter or something, we could go out and maybe pick a few areas.
Yeah, flag a few trees and, yeah,
Yeah.
see whether we should be tackling that sort of thing.
See how many of us walk out of the woods.
And then
10
another,
men, 10 men went in and only.
they also recommended glazing painting the property lines. Do you know if we've done that for Talmadge?
I don't think so. We paid
The
Dan Donahue to do that on Fenton Ruby and what we call it, Dropney, right?
I don't think the blazes go all the way down to 44. They go into that wet area and then it's kind of spotty through there. I don't think that boundary has been blazed all the way out.
Only rained twice. I hardly had time.
You're talking Knowlton?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, maybe that's another thing we can put on our to-do list, not a high priority, but, you know, checking the property lines and blazing
Right.
again.
Okay. All right, so it doesn't look like we need to jump in and do anything big in terms of these recommendations, then. Is that what I'm getting here?
Right. There's no urgency.
Yeah, right. All right, so we reviewed the plan for the minutes then. We reviewed the plan and
And
considered the
discussed patch clear cuts as an alternative to other recommendations in the report.
yeah, to other harvest, yeah, or other recommendations, yeah, that'd be good, perfect.
On to D.
On to D. Easement property monitoring. Jackie, anything on that at this point?
No, I haven't gotten out to the other property yet, unfortunately.
Okay.
Before the next meeting, I will be able to.
Yeah. Okay, well, to get there, I mean, that's the story of a lot of our lives. Things are on our lists.
Yep.
Okay, Fenton Ruby Park, Drobny. Nothing, I guess, particular there. Anyone have any notes or comments or?
I haven't been down to Fenton Ruby in quite a while.
Yeah. I went in the parking lot the other day, stood there 10 minutes trying to rake pebbles out of the bottom of the map box.
Obviously, you didn't have your map box rake with you, did you?
I did not. I have to make one of those, I guess. My next thought was there are drainage holes in the bottom. I need to make bigger holes on the bottom. Yeah. Wore out my fingernails reaching in there grabbing these little pea stones. At least on the lost and found box has a plexiglass front and that slides up. So when that's full of pebbles, I can just lift that up and sweep them out. Anyway, I put more maps there in the map box at Fenton Ruby finally.
Are we going to try to schedule some kind of a park day so we can?
Yep, that's number 4.
Number
Okay.
4. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
No. Anyway, yeah, maybe we should. Are we still thinking we maybe ought to do that? Kind of a combination park day, recruitment day?
Well, I think, we've asked people to volunteer. We got 2 people to at least reach out to us and say they're willing, to help. And we still have the old list of park friends.
Yeah.
Maybe plan something and we can come up. There's still a couple of trees that have to be cut up and pulled off, maybe reblazed. We were talking about taking that apple tree down. And we could use some volunteers to help us drag all the brush away.
Yeah,
If you and Chris will take the wood, that'll save us hauling that away.
Well, we certainly could take some of the, the trunk and the bigger limbs, but
Oh, yeah.
it's funny, we were looking at that dead apple tree that's closest to the parking area. And it's really got a beautiful trunk to it. We might want to consider cutting off the limbs and just leaving the trunk as a snag of sorts. I mean, it's not the prettiest thing, but the kids could we could leave, some of the bigger limbs that are on the bottom that kind of sweep out. Kids could still climb on those bottom limbs. We could take a look at it, but we were thinking maybe we wouldn't have to cut it all down.
okay. Yeah, there's lots of little jobs that could be done. Some of the trails need reblazing. If someone wanted to go out with a bucket of paint, some of those, the guidebook numbered posts need resetting. There's one I'm out by Julia's that's totally out of the ground. And some of the others are wobbly. Fields need brushing out. That may not be, that's maybe an equipment day that we wouldn't do on a work day, but I think clearing brush from the viewing areas. I mean, we can have a few people with loppers, like in front of where the benches are, the memorial bench and the Adirondack chairs, and down at the other memorial bench too. Well, a couple people with loppers could improve that, because that stuff grows in, just to keep the view open over the pond. So I guess there's a lot of little jobs that we could do, and maybe incorporate some of these people, at least the two that have volunteered, and maybe a few others. So we need a day for that then. Any suggestions? Sometime in May. Anyone have an idea or preference at this time?
Well, if you're going to involve these volunteers, you want to make sure that you don't necessarily pick a work day. I know work has a whole
Yeah.
different meaning than it did a year ago, but
It would have to be a weekend, I think. May 8th is World Migratory Bird Day.
We have Chris's mother's service on that day, but,
I'm gonna be away anyway, so that's not good,
okay.
I guess. Well, 15th, 16th, or 29th, 30th.
you're talking May?
Yes.
Thank you.
I know I have family coming on the 15th, 16th, so, I mean, as far as Chris and I, that wouldn't work.
Okay.
I have a birthday on the 15th. That's not going to work.
Woo!
I want to go out, eat and drink myself into silliness.
Oh, it's your birthday, not a birthday you want to
Yeah.
celebrate for someone. Happy birthday.
My birthday.
All right.
Are people around the Memorial Day weekend? 29, 30, 31? Maryland section. How about the 22nd, Maryland?
Yeah, I'm here.
Saturday. Well, why don't we try that then?
Saturday, the 22nd? All right.
Sure.
What time? 10? 9?
Pete, what time?
Well,
What do you do, 29th?
22.
Oh, 22.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. 9 is a good time to get working, but I don't know if that's a good time to get everybody out there. But 9,
You want to say 10 to 12 or 10 to 1?
10 to 12. Let's make it 2 hours, and people will figure that 2 hours I can do.
And that would be good because the 19th is our next meeting, so we'll have time to brainstorm a little bit more.
Yeah, and jobs and whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's do that.
And will you take care of getting in touch with Friends of the Park
I'll do that.
early May or something so they can put it on their calendar?
Yeah,
May 22nd, 10 to 12.
yes. Yeah, there's about 65 names on the old Friends of the Park, and I'll send a blast out to them. 10 or 15 will come back, undeliverable, because people change and move addresses, and that usually happens, in shorter periods of time. We'll see, though, and then we'll see if anyone shows up. And we'll get some buckets of paint, and if anyone wants to walk around with a bucket of paint and blaze trails, they can do that, and we'll get brush clearing and taking down the apple trees. So plenty of things to do.
Yep.
I think we won't be short on tasks. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
Do we want to invite our state representative to come? She was looking to be
They talk,
invited.
they talk, they don't work.
They work their jaws.
Well, we may need support at some point, especially with the grant.
Have her show
Yeah.
up.
Yeah,
You can
Yeah.
shoot her an email.
Sure.
See, it's not,
Just say-
it won't hurt.
Bring some work gloves and a pair of loppers.
Right.
yeah.
And
You can
coffee and
practice
tea and
using,
donuts.
You can stand by the picnic table and talk to people and serve coffee and donuts. How's that?
yeah, right.
There we go.
She can bring her loppers, practice using them so they can trim some of the spending bills when she brings them into Hartford.
Oh, no, it'd be good for her to kind of, see what's going on in town. That would be nice.
Sure. Okay, town development, looks like super jobs lot, Ocean State job lot, whatever it is down at
Lots and more.
lots and more. There
Lots
we
and
go.
more.
Okay. Is booming there with stuff all over the place. Anyone been in there yet?
Yep,
Uh,
yep.
Rate it.
Good selection of stuff,
Is it like
It's,
OSJL,
It's like a what?
Ocean State?
Some of it doesn't have the food.
Doesn't
No,
have
no,
I'll have
no
to stop
food.
in. No food.
Just stuff. It's kind of like a farm supply store.
Okay.
It's got that kind of a twist to it, but there's school supplies, there's craft stuff, there's
I'll have to go see it.
outdoor stuff, bird, animal, pet supplies.
Yeah, I've been in the one in Willimantic, but a long time ago, so probably about the same thing anyway. All right,
Yeah.
anyway, then business in town is good. Okay. Anything else on town
You
development,
bet.
Bob, jumping?
You betcha. You betcha. They got all the paperwork for Loves, and they put out the RFQ for clerk of the works
Okay.
to, I don't know, 7 or 8 companies. And Loves filed their building permit and the town got a check,
Okay.
a 6-figure check.
Wow. I guess that'll pay for the roof on Hall School, maybe.
Well, it's, as Mike said last night, a lot of that's going to be able to offset the lawyers' fees. Because of the size of the project, they may have a consulting engineer or someone review the plans. So there's, it's going to help the town pay down what was spent on that project overall.
Which
It
they wouldn't
seems
have
like-
had, which the town wouldn't have had to spend if they didn't come here to start with. But anyway,
Right. But, so that's the scoop.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
they're hoping to start, it probably won't happen in May now because there still has to be reviews in town. But it looks like they'll probably start, probably in June. Yeah, June,
Okay.
depending on how the reviews go of their, plan.
Yeah. Well, I guess we knew it was gonna be coming anyway, so
Yep.
shall put out some little signs, tell the salamanders, newts, turtles, and wood frogs to take cover. Okay, collaborative organization news. I haven't got anything from anybody else. Anybody hear anything anywhere? Okay, Wellington Farm Tour. We mentioned, Jackie brought up there was, at the last meeting, we said we'd talk about it this meeting about whether we'd provide some support for them as we have in the past. Jackie, what's going on there?
Yeah, so the date is in the end of June. I don't have it up with me at the moment, but yeah, we set a date, and yeah, we're looking to print some posters and I think postcards again. I think we did $100, or we promised $100 last year, and it ended up being less, but I think that would be reasonable again for this year.
Okay,
Now, we spoke about this, Jackie, at the last meeting, and for some reason, we said we were gonna wait to make a motion about providing some financial support. Do you remember why we were gonna wait?
I think we were just getting towards the end of the meeting and it was new business.
Okay, thank you. I make a motion that we provide financial support to the Wellington Farm Tour by giving them $100 to help pay for printing of posters and postcards.
I'll second.
that motion sound like it will cover it, Jackie, that
Yeah.
just the
Yeah,
advertised kind of stuff. Any discussion? All in
Who's
favor?
Who, excuse me, who seconded that? Bob, thank you.
Okay. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions? Okay, good. All right, we've talked daily award before. I don't know if we want to work along on that. If we did a daily award, it's something we could maybe present on the park work day on the 22nd. I suppose. We had one candidate, his name we put out, or that I did, and I don't know if anyone has anyone else or whether the candidate aforementioned.
I think we should go with your suggestion, Peter.
Yeah, I have to dig up some background. I know he was on the, I'm not sure whether he was ever on Conservation Commission, but he was on the whatever the name of the committee that was established to develop the plan for Fenton Ruby Park.
That was before my time.
Yeah, well, before mine too, and yeah, Carol would have more background on that, and maybe we can come up with some more to say a few, put a few words down. And yeah, and he's every year, as I mentioned, every year goes out and redoes the duck boxes at the park.
Right.
So I think it's, put a reasonable amount of service in towards the park, and would be
And he's the kind of guy that if there weren't a lot of people at the park when it happened, he would be perfectly fine with that.
Oh, absolutely.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because I mean, I was just thinking, oh gee, we're gonna have an event where there might not be many people, but I think he'd like that.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be something that would be a negative,
I
because
agree.
we'd be there. We'd all be there.
Yeah, I think we went out, did out to Wellington Pizza for the last candidate and had a little sit around the table. Peterson presented the award there, I believe.
Right, to Ken.
If I can, right?
Yeah.
So do we have time to update to get an award done, Peter? If we do this in May on the 22nd?
I think so. Mark Drobny did the last one.
Okay,
Yeah, but prior to that, we were going to, have a brass one, but Mark did, I forget exactly what he did. Routed out, used some laser sculpted.
wasn't it in the shape of Wellington?
I think, yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was nice, so I think we could have him do that.
Should we make a motion to expend money to pay for that?
Yes, I think maybe we should.
I'll
I'm
move
not-
that
We should, yeah, we can do that. I'm not sure any money was accepted last year for it, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't.
okay, well, we can
Yeah,
at
we
least
have
put it in maybe as expend up to $100 or something.
Sure, why don't we do that?
I move that we expend up to $100 to pay for
A plaque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
for the Daily Award.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, excellent. Yeah, be good. I don't know how many years ago we gave the last one, but I've got it somewhere, but that'd be good to get another one there.
Can I just add too, in terms of, well, I know you'll do like a write-up to read that day, but he not only, cleans out the duck boxes, but he also replaces them. He's going to be replacing 2 of them this year. There's 2 that, one was underwater and the
Yeah.
other one was in the first pond. So I know he's planning to go out and replace them. He had told Chris and I.
Yeah. Okay. I might, his son, I forget his name, often has, he's had his whole family out there on the ice, working on the box. For his son, I may see if he has any other background or information regarding the park that we could add to it anyway. But I'll check into that. I have his email, I think.
Okay, I have his contact info if you need it.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so any other old business? Okay, then, I guess we're done. I think we covered everything pretty well tonight. Yeah, maybe our state rep could be there for the presentation of the Daily Award too. But,
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
do that.
There we go. Yeah.
I can make a pan of muffins up. I mean, you need to have a little social hour to go with it, right? I mean, at least I think so, unless you guys think it's not necessary.
Oh,
No, it's good to have something, yeah. And I was gonna maybe do Dunkin'. I mean, Maryland's homemade stuff is always better. Yeah, we can have some.
And I don't think we're gonna have a huge turnout, so if I make a couple dozen, we should be good to go.
Well, most likely, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Maybe somebody could pick up some cider or something or depending on the weather, or a flagon of tea or something.
Yeah, may have to be hot cider if it's daylight tomorrow. It's gonna be, I guess, gonna be below freezing tonight, I suppose, I think. So. Jack, you got everything covered up there in the fields for the. All right. Okay, I think we're good for tonight then, unless anyone has any other.
Okay, see you on the trail, huh?
Yep, I
Good. See you out
sound
there.
good. Yep, thanks.
Bye, guys. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So Kathy, Chris still ready to go tomorrow?
Yep, he's ready
You're
to
still
go.
on record.
Oh, how do I, oh, there. Yes, I am. All right, what stops it?